There is a thin divide between what is perceived as spiritual and paranormal, for they are forever intertwined throughout time. Traveling within the history of the world, we can find examples of spirituality that involves everything from magic, spirits, gods and goddesses, and seers, or people said to be able to speak to the dead. Hey everyone, it's a great day. It's snowing here where I am at the cave, but that's okay. I am so pleased to introduce you to a gentleman I've known actually for quite a few years, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we reconnected, because everything's starting to settle a little bit in the world. And his name is Andrew Dee. He's a great spiritual medium. He's just a great guy all the way around, and I want all you peeps to understand who he is, and I hope you include him with our group as well. So without further ado, Mr. Andrew Dee, how are you? I am so happy to see you. I just said it's been a long time, brother.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but a long time since we've even spoken. Well, I think we've maybe exchanged messages once or twice since before the pandemic, but we've really not done this for at least, I'm trying to think now. Excuse me. I'm trying to think. I think the last show we were on together was at least 10 years ago, and we go back before then as well.
It was radio too. We weren't doing video. We were over on BTR. And I was thinking all morning, because you came on to Almost Heaven with Lizzie Starr, and you were on my Spiritually Paranormal radio show as far as that goes. But honest to God, I'm not really sure how we actually connected, how we met. And I was like, I've always known, it's like I've always known you. So I've always considered you like family. And I was like, I don't know, I've known him for a really long time. And I'm thinking beyond even what we were on radio. So I'm so blessed to have you here.
Thank you. And do you know what as well, Bert? But based on what you said, I'm trying to think now, when we were back on Blog Talk Radio, I mean, that was the very, very early days of anything to do with the internet. And I loved having my own show. But it's amazing how many people heard me on there. And then I got invited to work in the US, and then I ended up over there. And I don't want to call it a fan base, but definitely people heard about me. And I only came back in August time. I was in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. And somebody called the other day and said, "When are you coming back to the US?" But I don't know is the answer. I don't know.
I'm really glad you did. I think that was part of what you had to do, because I know we talked about that, and you were asking me how it was over here in the US, and it is progressive as far as what we do, but I still don't think it's quite as progressive as where you are, because I think it's been more of a part of a way of life over by where you are than here. But the tides have changed, and it's our time to get out there again and tell them who we are. So I want you to, if you would, please, just tell everybody how you started this path.
Oh, my word. Right. Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to go back, and I haven't told this story for a long time. So and it's amazing the way things go full circle as well, which I will come back to, because I when I was still in the Air Force, the RAF, the Royal Air Force, the British Air Force, I was over in Iraq in 2006, 2007, around that time frame. And I had what I would describe as a sort of spiritual moment, or a spiritual epiphany, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But I'd already started just being drawn to the spiritualist churches. And you mentioned the difference between here and the US. One of the main differences is, depending on where you live, not always, but I've been very lucky. And honestly, within a 10-mile radius, I could probably pick out or even hit, at least 5 or 6 spiritualist churches. If I was to throw a rock, I could probably hit 5 or 6 churches within a 10-mile radius. So I've always had that. that sort of luxury. But I just, around 2006, just before I went to Iraq, I was just being drawn to it, and I went for my very first time. And don't ask me why I was drawn to it, but there was a guy who welcomed me to the local church, and basically he said, "Hey, Andrew's got a message, everybody. Andrew's got a message." And I was like, "Yeah, what's a message?" And and he walked me through it. He said, "Close your eyes, tell me what you see, what's in front of you." And it was more of a psychic message then. But I said, as I opened my eyes, I saw this guy in front of me, and what I can only describe as looked like small mechanical devices, some sort of mechanical device in his chest. I said, "This looks like it's the chest, it's the heart, and I can see them on you now." And he said, "I had a heart valve replacement a few weeks ago." So that was, although it wasn't a spiritual message as such, I was seeing something connected to a guy I'd never. It was my first time in a church. It was my first time doing anything like this. And then I went to Iraq about 6 months later. And while I was there, I haven't got it with me now. It's in my other office. But basically, I found a small Dutch clog in the sand in Iraq, 3,000 miles from home. And
Wow.
as clear as I'm sat here, I looked down and I kicked something, and I thought it was a ring pull from a Coke can. And as I pulled it up, it was the little Dutch clog, the wooden painted Dutch clog with the key ring on the top. And that's what looked like the ring pull from a can. As I looked, I really felt like I'd been sort of surrounded, shrouded, somehow cosseted in a way. And I just felt like this. I'm just going to say this, not an out of body experience, not by any stretch, but like somebody had just wrapped themselves almost like, like a duvet or a blanket or something. And I was like, wow. And it wasn't okay, so what? It's a painted wooden Dutch clog, but all my family are Dutch. My mom has clogs all over the house. My dad had a restaurant called Clogs. So it's sort of the connections still go on and on. And I was like, there's something in this. There's something in this, and that's really where it all sort of began for me. I started developing in the spiritualist churches. That was my sort of spiritual home, the local spiritualist church. And I was giving messages to people, and then people would say, "Hey, can you do me a reading, or can you come to my house?" And it really did begin there. And sort of, I mean, we can talk more about the journey afterwards, but that's really where it started.
It's funny because when whoever the divine, I call divine, their angels, Christ, they can be the masters, and the spirits want us to do something, they make sure we see it. And if we don't see it clearly, they wind up like taking a proverbial 2x4, clearing it, and then putting it right there. And it's like, that's not coincidence you found that. That's like connection that you found that. Mm-hmm. So I just love that. And I got to say, we do have a few spiritualist churches in Michigan. I haven't been to one in a while because they're not up where I live. But I did go to one halfway from here to my daughter's, which is down in the Metro Detroit area, a long time ago. And I did do some work out there and stuff. And you got to love when they say, "Oh, Spirit has messages for you," and you've never stood up. So I can appreciate what you had there when he did that for you. And it's like, wow, baptism by fire, and it's kind of crazy at times, but it's I like the way you guys are more accepting of it. People here in the U.S. are beginning to be more accepting of what we do or how we do it. And it just kind of, some days it really humbles me to think what we do and how we connect with people. And I know you connect with people as well. Like, I mean, you resonate with people. And I was talking to Sean and Bex before the show yesterday that I had, and I said, he's such a good man. He's just, I just love the people I've pulled towards my kind of network. You know, we're always there. Like if you had gotten in touch with me 2-3 years ago and said, I need you to do this, I would do it. And I know the same works with you. And it's just a really nice family to have.
Yeah.
So you came to the US. How did that go? What were you doing while you were here?
Oh wow! Well, listen. I mean, if I can just take you back a step as well, Bear, because I left the Air Force around 2007, 2008, and then I worked for my family for about 3-4 years, and then I decided to venture out. I'd already started doing some readings for people, and then I ventured out on my own, started my own business. So in terms of the US. It was now she may be watching now, Mo, if she's watching in Plymouth, Mass. And she, Andrew Dee, you've got to come to America. Everybody loves you. And I was like, well, okay. I've been like doing this for 5 minutes. And honestly, I said to those people upstairs, I said, if I go there and I come back broke, I'll never do it again. And honestly, I came back with about $50 in my pocket. So, so I covered the outgoings, I covered the costs. And it sort of went from there, just being invited back. But when I was last summer, I was invited to, I'm trying to think of the name now. It was, oh my word, it was down in Connecticut. It was down in Niantic. I'm going to have to look on my phone when you're talking. There's some pictures on my face. If you go to my website, andrewdee.com, hit the Facebook link, you'll go to my business page and you'll see that it's Niantic, and there's a picture of the cottage we stayed in, and I was invited to do some workshops, some readings.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You talk about Nantucket?
No, Niantic. In Connecticut. So I was staying in a lakeside cottage, and we were doing some work in the church there. And it was the Ladies Society. I'm going to look at the pictures. I'm going to find the name of it. But we were there for about a week. Oh my word, it was so hot. I mean, I don't know about where you are in Michigan, but Connecticut. Oh. The humidity, I was melting for a week. So you asked me how it went. I melted. Honestly, I think I lost about 10 pounds.
I was going to say, and being from where you are, you probably were like the ghost. You're like stark white going out into the sun, right? So now you've got color now, so I know you've been out in the sun, so that's good. That's funny.
Well, it wasn't too bad, because obviously it does get warmer here, but we did have a really hot summer here in the UK. So when I went to the US, it wasn't too bad, unlike when you see the Brits go on vacation to Spain and they all arrive in the big coats and like they look white. So you're right.
Yeah, we can be scary at times over here too. So
but,
they always say I'm really white because I'm actually allergic to the sun, so I have to go out like 3 or 4 times. I break out with hives, and then I'm good, but I have to go through that. So yeah.
Well, listen, talking about here we go. I found it now. It's on my phone. Okay, I found it. It was the Pine Grove Spiritualist Camp in Niantic.
Okay, gotcha.
Connecticut. That's where I went. I had to look to see where I went. But you were saying about the attitudes, maybe the American attitude or the British attitude. It's really weird. I find in America, people talk about it much more openly. I find if I went to the US and say, hey, I'm a medium, hey, I'm a psychic, because they are different. I found people go, oh, wow, tell me more. Whereas in this country, it's sort of, you do what? Unless you go to a church. So I find the opposite, having been in the US. I mean, I've been going to the US now since around 2015. It used to be like 3-4 times a year. Now I'm lucky because I'm working full time again now. I'm now teaching again, so I'm lucky if I get there once a year now, because I can't take vacations when I want because I'm not self-employed anymore.
Right. That's you look back at all you've done and where you came from to where you are now. I was always keeping an eye on things. I do with everybody, but I had like the past 5 years have been crazy here too. So it was a lot to get through, but those connections are still there and I love it. And I think what it is, and I've talked to Lizzie about it too, it's more structured where you are doing readings. And I think that's probably because it is through the church. And they respect readers, but they respect them when they're in the church. They like to have that kind of safety net around them almost. Seeing us, I went in and tried to talk in some of the churches up here, that would not be a good thing. Because I still have people here in the States that get the Bibles out and say, oh, you're from the devil, and you know, if you see spirit and what have you. So it's very difficult, but there's different opportunities here. There's different places, and they're creating their own spaces, the healing centers. And, you know, like I've got a place downstate, it's called the Detroit Tarot Company, but they do all kinds of stuff, including different readings. So it's very, very different. I just find it fascinating, though, because you guys are very structured. I always resonated with how you read. Never had an issue with that. And usually when you get 2 or 3 people in the same area, even through this or on the phone, the energy level raises tremendously. So, but you have a great gift, and again, such an amazing guy. So tell me what's been going on, though. Tell me what you were doing while you were at some of these things. What were you? Said you were teaching. I know you're teaching school now, but teaching in the field.
Oh, right. Okay. Do you mean with the mediumship, with the spiritualism, or and it's funny because I'm going to say something in a minute that about 6 months ago, I just said to myself, God, all I want to do is just get back to teaching again, just get teaching and passing on knowledge and helping other people learn. So I'll come back to that in a second. But regarding the mediumship and that side of things, I was running my sort of my own private teaching establishment, bringing students in, teaching them to go out there. But this all started around the time of the pandemic as well, because we couldn't get out to venues, we couldn't get out to places. So I thought, well, you know, I'll start teaching online. And but what really makes it for me is somebody once said, hey, you're a renegade, because although I grew up through the churches and learned that structured methodology, that modality through the churches as well, you know, that's the way I learned, and that's the way I passed that on to my students. But like anything at all, Bert, just trying to get going on your own, and there's bigger fish out there, you know, and you're just trying to be that little tiny fish to just swimming upstream just to get to where you need to be. And it's difficult. And I'm going to be really honest and say, you know, unless you can just keep throwing cash at it all the time, and this is no disrespect to anybody else, because we're sort of in the age of Aquarius now, you know, so there's been a great awakening. A lot more people are awake, which is, can only be good for the movement. But with it, it's like anything. People see things and they go, hey, I'm going to make a quick buck, you know, and then suddenly there's people giving the whole profession a bad name. So I just try to stand out. I got myself accredited. I got my courses accredited by an independent body, not by the normal bodies that you would expect to see, so that I could just have an accreditation organization look at my courses, look at me and say, you're doing all the right stuff, you're doing the good stuff. We know nothing about what you do, but we know about structure, we know about how to build a course, we know what you should have in the course, in the content, and how to deliver it, because they watch me deliver the course. So I've done it all professionally. But what I've now done is also, as I mentioned, I was in the Air Force. I'm now teaching Air Force engineers, but as a civilian.
Oh, how awesome.
So that whole message, you know, I just want to get back to teaching. Yes, I have, but in a paid day job. So the last 6 months have been quite turbulent, really. You know, we lost my mom back in October. She had a fall in July, and then there was that whole hospital visits all the time. And the really weird thing was, just touched on this ever so slightly, it was September 30th, and sadly my little dog died, or we had to let him go. And we were just all still upset the next day, and the next minute the hospital called and says, hey, you need to get down here. So we lost my mom and my little friend, like, within 24 hours. And it's just all I was talking to my sister today, and there are still things that are falling out of all of that. So I'm just finding my feet. Just started a new job. We had all the family stuff going on. So what I'm really saying, guys, is, myself and Bear, which are ordinary people with ordinary lives. That sounds like a song to me. Ordinary people. Life happens to us as well. So I've been juggling those balls. So the teaching side from the spiritual side will come back again, but there's been a whole ton of stuff that I've been kicking around, with that as well. So we will get there. I will be having new students again soon, but I just need to refocus myself, because
you need
so
to
much
balance again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I told everybody at the beginning of the year, what I was told was this is going to be the year of healing and balance. And it is. And like you've gone through stuff the past, say, 5 years, it's been the same here. And I always laugh at people that think I live in this big mansion with all these cars and, I'm loaded. That's not who we are. Like you said, we're normal people. So we're not... I look at some of and I guess in a way I'm grateful for some of the mediums and stuff that are out there that charge an arm and a leg, I don't do that, and I don't really respect that, but they have made way for the rest of us. And, it's a normal thing. But yeah, like you said, if I hadn't had Bex and Sean and the Ghost Dimension family that they put together and I got included with, I don't really think I would have been where I am today. Because like you, I had some rough times between 2015 and now, and my health went down. I got to the point where I could hardly walk because of my back. I had wound up having 2 spine surgeries. The first one wasn't completed. I was in there 5 years and I died 3 times on the table and came back. So yeah, then you have to adjust for that. But my back wasn't right. 220. I finally had a decent surgery with my back. The wolf passed away very suddenly. We dealt with that, and I have her daughters are my daughters. So, all that. And then I had to go through buying my house because I was leasing it with option, and that happened, and I had COVID. And yeah, it's like now all that crap is behind me, right? And I woke up Christmas Day and I felt really good. I'll tell you about that another time, but I'm healing, right? And we have to allow it. So I'm back on the road again. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there are those of us that don't get seen and I feel they should be seen. And you're one of them. You're part of my network, my family, extended, but by choice. So I'm really happy that connection is still there with us. And yeah, we are normal people, and you've been through the ringer too. I have seen that, and it's a lot, but like you said, it's life, right?
Absolutely. I was just sharing I'll tell you what, we'll cancel that. I'll figure that out next time. I was just sharing tonight onto my page as well, so hopefully that's gone. But you're right there. This whole network thing and getting moving again, it has been I think I was very blessed. I think I was very lucky because, I came out the Air Force. I started to work for my family. I set myself up in self-employment, and it just grew and grew and grew. And somebody I know who is respected in the Spiritualist Nationalist Union in this country, which is like the big governing body.
Right.
We were away. I was on a course of his, always developing, always learning. And he said, "You've really come into the fast lane, haven't you?" And yeah, I feel like I've pulled over onto like the breakdown lane or the hard shoulder recently. So maybe I'll get back out into the fast lane again soon. Who knows?
We got to slow down sometimes, and I laugh because I'm at a point right now where my brain is clear thinking because I don't have the pain I had prior last year, and my brain won't shut off. My body hasn't quite caught up to it yet because I'm gathering strength because I have been so physically weak, and my brain just won't shut off. My body gets tired at the end of the day, but my brain's like, "Oh, don't forget, you got to do this, you got to do that." And then I got spirit saying, "Oh, no, you do this first." And I'm like, "Holy crow." So it's about a balancing act, and I really feel that
Yeah, but you're saying that as well about that balancing act. For the last 3 weeks, I've been the military being the military. I was put on a teaching course because my original teaching qualification, it was valid, but they said, hey, you did it too long ago. You need to redo the course, and we've extended the course. But the course I'm doing, if you were to go to night school 1 night a week for a year, they squeezed this course into 3 weeks. So honestly, I've been in at 8 a.m. every day, working till 5 p.m. Then I've been working till like 11:30 midnight on assignments. And the course ends effectively 5 p.m. tomorrow. And strangely enough, the readings and everything have all dried up. It's gone very, very quiet. So people always say, oh, I need a break, I need this. But it's weird the way the universe does listen. And I'm like, don't send me anybody, I'm too busy. You know, I'm like, and all you could hear, if you could hear this now, it's just like the keyboard's going like that. I go, oh. So that will end next week, and hopefully things will pick up again, because what I'm doing now is just doing readings in the evenings, just doing a few a week now. And I'm going to be really honest about this. And I think you understand where I'm coming from, Bert. It doesn't matter what your line of business is. If you start off with a hobby and something you enjoy and something you love, and then you think, I'm going to give up the day job and I'm going to do this full time, suddenly, you know, maybe if you made, I don't know, say if you made spectacles for people, you know, and you made 3 pairs a week and they were very sort of bespoke and designer, and then suddenly you think, I've got no day job now, I'm going to have to make 15 pairs a week just to pay the bills. And then suddenly it puts a whole different slant on the hobby that you enjoyed and your go-to place for your passion suddenly becomes the grind. And I don't mean that disrespectfully for anybody, but suddenly it becomes a business. And what I've found recently, since I've gone back to teaching in the daytime full-time, the passion is coming back for the readings because I've got the pleasure of doing them in my own time.
Right.
And it's not like, you know, like it's not like a storefront or with the door opens, it's like, get more stock, buy more stock, sell more stocks, you know, buy what did they say? Buy them low, sell them high, or whatever it is, like in shares. So a lot's changed for me recently. It's not just working full-time in the day again. A lot has changed about my other work as well. And you were saying about your head becoming clearer. I found myself that the work I'm doing, there's a lot more clarity coming to what I'm doing now. And it's like, wow, you know I was burnt out. So somebody's looking after me.
Yep. It's I've fallen back. Well, I haven't done fresh artwork probably in 5 years. Like I've done a little, but not now. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm ready, and I'm doing that all day. So that's also how I fall back on my work, and then do readings. And I'm actually having more readings coming in, which is good. And it's just about honoring, for me, it's just about honoring the sacred, you know, and I know you do this too. You know, we give away a lot of ourselves to people that can't afford. I put prayers up for people. We put them up as a group, the whole 9 yards, you know. So it's a different way, but it's coming in, I think, for us in the way it's meant to be, so that we can balance and we can be stronger and our voices can be heard in a wider way. And I know you're here to stay with your gift, and I know you touch people. And you're the real deal, you know. It's just, the world's full of a lot of ugly right now, and they need people like you. So I'm grateful that you're out there doing that.
And you too as well, Beth. Thank you. And one thing I've really noticed as well is when I said about that clarity coming back, I almost went the other way and said to the universe, said to spirit, you know, I want to sort of start connecting with the people that really need the guidance and the support and the help. And I can be of use to them, not, you know, just send me like 300 people so I can pay the mortgage this month or whatever. So I'm getting back. So I'm going to say it's coming back to the quality, not the quantity, which is something I'm really enjoying right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because I tell this to everybody, you know, be careful what you wish for. Be very, very specific in what you're asking for, and don't leave details out, because sometimes it'll just bring it just as you asked it. You know,
Yeah.
like I hear people all the time, am I going to get a new job? I'm like, I don't know. Are you going to go out and look for a job? That's not what I do. But if you believe in yourself enough to go out and look for a job, and then they'll say, well, we're putting out, we want a job. Well, okay, they got a job offer at the Dairy Queen, you know, serving ice cream. Well, they didn't want that. But they weren't specific enough. And I can honestly say, over the years, when I've been specific about it, I can't tell you how it happens, but it happens. And, you know, things change or switch in your life, or the right people you run into to make whatever you're doing reach in a farther way. So yeah, it's a crazy time right now. Over here, and I don't know what it's like by you, but over here there's a lot of anger and a lot of hate that was shoveled under or put under rugs for years, right? And it's all been pulled off, and it's all everywhere, and it's kind of a scary place to deal with. And then going into the pandemic, and yeah, we're sort of done with it, but we're sort of not either, because it's still out there a bit. It's a tough time for a lot of people. What do you say to people when they're stressed?
Well, I don't sort of work with generic messages. I don't work with, hey, it's going to be okay. And that's why I love working individually, one-to-one with people as well. You know, and if I can just quote a lady I did a reading for yesterday, and all I said to her was, I said, let's be straight about this. Certain people, they can explain anything away. You might say, hey, you've become a little bit of a hermit recently. Yeah, it's snowing outside. You know, don't go anywhere. I don't see anybody. It's too cold. It's too dark. And I said, well, no, if you think about it, go back before the snow and the dark and everything. When's the last time you socialized with anybody? When's the last time you went out? You know, and this is just on the telephone. When's the last time you went anywhere? So when you said to me, what do I say to people? I said, I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know.
Because if you're getting old, I mean.
Yeah, because I'm a lot more honest with people, or a lot more straight with people. You know, people say, well, you know, I'm not meeting a man. And I don't know what they look like or where they're from or anything. It's just a telephone call. I said, I'm telling you now, you've been invited on vacation, you've turned it down. You've been invited for dinner, you've turned it down. And how do you think you're going to meet somebody, a friend or a guy or whatever? How are you going to meet them? From just watching daytime TV and eating TV dinners at home. And I said, you've got to interact with the universe. You've got to be part of it. You've got to go out there. So you say to me, what do I say to people? I say, get off your butt and be part of what's going on, because it ain't going to come to your front door and knock on your front door and say, hey, you know, here we are, here's your future. You've got to go out and be part of it. And people say, I've manifested and I've done this and I've got a vision board, and, you know, and I've been very specific about what I've asked for the universe, and I light a candle every night and I pray and I meditate. I said, yeah, but you're asking for this stuff, but you haven't been over the door in a week.
Right.
You know, so, you know, allowing for people's mobility and things like this. But I say to them, you know, I genuinely feel rather than just telling people nice things, hey, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, don't worry, I've become very much more what I would describe myself as a spiritual guide or a spiritual life coach, and saying, look, you know, I'm seeing this for you, but you've got to meet me halfway here. It's not going to, like I said, knock on the door, just arrive and be there. You know, I need you to get up and, you know, shake off, you know, dust yourself down, shake yourself and get moved. And I said, and these things will come in. And
you have to be more like me. You have to be blunt like a bear.
Yeah,
right? You just have to be blunt. And it's like, if people don't allow things to come in. I did some reads the other day, and I think, if I recall correctly, one of them was about similar stuff, what you're saying. They want stuff to happen and new stuff to come in. And it's like, when I look at you, all I see are walls. I says, you got to at least start punching holes for windows, and you have to put yourself out there, because if you step into your own power, it works. You know, you have to own who you are. It doesn't matter who Tom, Dick, and Harry, Mary, Sue, and Donna are telling you they want you to do this. That's their expectations. You need to do your own. Listen, children of the corn. You hear these birds? They get all wound up when I'm doing shows like spiritually, and the two in the back I took in. Oh my God, they're parakeets. Just
you need a cloth, or you need a blanket or something.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work, honest to God. And you can ask anybody in the chat room. They usually see them. They're flying all around my head because I let them do that. But they're just, they're a lot some days. But anyway, I've got an African gray back there too somewhere. He's in his cage, I think. I can't see him. But yeah, he talks too. So he talks and laughs and acts like the phone. But yeah, you know, people can't just push a go button, right? That's the whole thing. You can't just push that big red button. I'd like to. Crap, I would really like to, but it doesn't.
And this is, this is one of the things with my students when I was teaching them, and they'd say, but what if the client or the recipient says no? What do I do then? I said, if they say no, that's great because you know where you stand. But I said, there's two reasons why they say no. One, they don't want to hear what you got to say. Two, they're just not seeing it right now. Or three, you may be, I speak English, you speak English, but I believe the Americans and the Brits are very common people, separated, or they're very, very different cultures separated by a common language. So it's like, what I'm really saying is, if you think of like Australian English, South African English, American English, Canadian English, sometimes you've almost got to translate it yourself, or it's down to perception, how they're understanding it. And I say to my students, I say, look, I said, what you've got to do is go back upstairs and say, tell me again, so that they understand it. And suddenly the client will go, oh, I know what you mean. And maybe they just weren't thinking in the right space. And people do come to readings with a certain mindset and maybe what they're going to hear, and when you say something different, it's like, I wasn't expecting that. So there's two things that I would call it: experience and age. And you just go, look, I'm telling you, if you don't take it this way, we can't be too blunt, because sometimes to allow for people's understanding, but maybe I'm not as a shrinking violet like I used to be.
Well, age. Yeah, I think about that. Going through COVID and all the drugs they had on me, I'm not on anymore. My hair is finally starting to grow back in. Otherwise, a couple more months of it, I would have had your head. I wouldn't have had.
Hey, what are you trying to say?
I love you. I'm only pulling your leg. But yeah, so what do you got coming up? What's new is coming up? What's going on with you? Anything new other than just working and putting yourself out there?
Oh, my word, right. Next move is a new home. This was something else that happened last year. So we lost my dog, we lost my mom. Literally, my brother's girlfriend passed like 2 weeks ago, like suddenly. So that's going on right now. But we started to buy a home. It went on for 9 months, and it got right. And I was actually staying in Plymouth, Mass, and we got a call from the realtor, and they said, the seller's pulling out. It's like, what do you mean this? And basically, there was something to do with the property, and I said, this is the seller's problem, not the buyer's problem. You need to fix this. And she said, oh, I've spent so much money on this, so I'm not spending any more money on it. I said, well, it's not my problem. I said, look, I'm not willing to move any more on this. So she pulled out. A week later, we're still in Plymouth, Mass. I've knocked 10 grand off the house. Will you buy it now? I was like, are you kidding me? Like 9 months down the line, you told me you're pulling it off the market. Now you want me to buy it again. And it just went on forever. So in the end, I think we sort of understood the universe was telling us something, that we weren't meant to buy that house for whatever reason. So just before Christmas, we're getting the paperwork and everything together. So we're getting ready to try and start to buy a family home again. And maybe we'll be a bit luckier this time. So that's the next thing on the horizon.
That's good. Well, I went through that last year too. Actually from 2021 to 2022, and it took 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it took 9 months. And the market here is really super crazy right now, like up for the sellers.
Mhm.
But when I started leasing this house, it was with an option to buy it. So when my option came, but I had to jump through so many hoops, and it would get, oh no, we got to start all over, and so yeah, it's a headache. But I got to the end, and I got it. So that kind of thing is when it falls in your lap and you're supposed to have it, you'll have it. Like maybe
Yeah,
that wasn't what it was supposed to. This one will be. It's a funny way world works sometimes, for sure.
yeah, you're not wrong. And there's so many occasions when when I speak to my clients, I sort of liken it. I say, that door that you've been pushing for so long to try and make it open, try opening it the other way, try pulling it towards you. And they go, the door opens, but it's just maybe. And I firmly believe this with the house. At some point, we'll just go on the internet, and the house will be there, and it'll be like a knife through butter. It'll just happen.
It's hard though. It's hard because of the way things are. Like I said earlier, we're through the pandemic, but we're really not. Like what it caused, the cause and effect of stuff. And I think that's taking a toll on a lot of people. Matter of fact, I think a lot of people aren't ready to even step out into public anymore. I think it's scary. It's kind of scary. I had a friend that just went on, of all things, a cruise, but she went with an older woman whose husband had passed. So that was what her and her husband was supposed to do, and she didn't want to lose the ticket. So she wound up taking my friend, who's like a daughter to her. And she says, oh, it was amazing to be on, but to go to these places. She went like to Italy and Rome and Vatican City and Florence and all this. It was like an Italian cruise about stuff. And she said it was okay, but people were really like standoffish out there yet, with each other, even people who were in the marketplaces and stuff. And I said, yeah, it's not gone. And of course, you're on a floating petri dish, and she got home and she had COVID. And thank God she had the vaccine and the boosters that she did, and she still got it bad. So it's just it's a different way. And I think that for us and you and I, it's in a way that we're going to reach out and reach more people or interact with more people because of the way that it is right now. I think a lot of people are doing this type thing where they're able to teach online, like you're saying, or have what I'm doing online to introduce people to the rest of the world, and I think that's going to be a positive for us. I think that's why we're still here doing it. Some days I wake up, I don't know about you, and I'm like, why am I doing this again?
Well, I think as well, that, at one point I was meant to be available, be there, 24/7 for people. And it's strange because when you said be careful what you wish for, the words I did say was, I just want to get back to teaching full time. I am, but it's not on the spiritual side, it's on the engineering side. But then suddenly and I actually said as well, I just want to get out there, do what I used to, because I used to love my radio show. I did some TV work in the States. I did some TV work in the UK. I thought I just want to get back out there, sort of promoting this stuff, not necessarily doing readings. And you contacted me like last week and said, hey, Andrew, are you free on a Wednesday? It was like, somebody's listening.
You were actually, when I had Carrie Greenaway on here last week, she works with crystals and stones, and she's an amazing reader, tarot reader, and I love her to death. And I've become she's over in the UK, and it's nice to be able. So I called her in, and I thought, you know what, I got to set the schedule for the next month and a half. And I did. And you were the second call I made. It's like, I need Andrew back. We need to know what Andrew's doing. How are your kids?
The kids, do you know what? I just spoke to my youngest son about an hour ago. And he's doing fine art. So he's doing fine art at a university college. And I said to him, because obviously I've been really busy academically these last few weeks myself, And I said, son, because his finals, he's got to have all these pieces of artwork in. He's doing his dissertation for his third year. And I said to him, are you on a roll? And he said, well, it's more of a sort of gathering momentum. I said, son, you've got like about 3 months to get everything in. But, everybody you speak to, if you give them a deadline, if you give them 6 months to do a project, they'll do it on like day 250, 23 hours and 59 minutes. So, and I think you need that pressure to get the creative juices flowing.
I do. That's how I went through school, and I completed my bachelor's since I last talked to you in psychology. Wow. So I went and finished that just to prove I could, and then but it's like procrastinate. That's like my middle name, It seems like I can pull stuff together quicker if I know it's like tomorrow, because it's always no, I'll get to it. No, I'll get to it. So, and I've started actually last week. I started. You can't wait. This stuff's got to get done. So you're gonna do that.
I don't know about you, Bear, but when you said you did your bachelor's, and congratulations. But one thing I've learned on this course, when I went to school, I think we're about the same age, but when I went to school, you just sat there in the class, and I always remember history, and it was like Charlie Brown, like Peanuts. The history teacher was going wah 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 wah, and I was like, and then maths, they were just like drawing on the board, and
I hate math.
And the way kids learn these days with what we call evidence-based techniques and flipped classrooms and all this stuff, which is what I've been redoing. And I'm like, if they taught like this when I was at school, I would have done my bachelor's when I was 21, not when I was 35. But what this course has also made me realize is that maybe I should have done some more learning a while back, because I've missed being learning and mixing with other people and learning, and that whole journey that you're on. So you must have found that as well, that learning journey and just mixing with schoolmates.
I did it online.
Oh wow. Yeah.
With Phoenix University, which is an accredited university. The classes were not easy, and we got paired up. We were all in like classrooms, same thing. It was all virtual, but we had to do projects with each other. And let me tell you, I was grandma compared to most of the fellow students. They were all in their 20s. You're not as old as I am. I'm 62. So
close.
Nah. So it was kind of something to get over, like that hump, because they kept thinking of me as old, and yet I brought kind of ideas and things to them that were different. And new ideas, and the professor would always get a hold of me I want you to work with this. I really don't want to, and math. Oh, I hate math. Math is a nightmare for me. I hate it. Simple math is fine, multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting, percentages. You get into all the A plus B equals C stuff. Not my thing. So no. But it's good that you do that, and we all have to do that. We all should take time to relearn or listen to other people, because they all have valid points that we can learn from.
Well, when I went to school, they just taught one way. The teacher was wah 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 wah, and now we're allowing for kinesthetic learners, those who learn visually, those that learn audio, through audio, those that learn through read write, and we're catering for all different learning types now, because one size does not fit all.
Right.
And that's what we got so wrong in the 70s. When I went to school, and now the learning that we're now bringing kids through the systems here, at least where I work. We're bringing them through the system that may never have got through in the past under the old system, but we've realized that they all bring something to the party. And, you with your college friends, college mates, fellow students, you were bringing something like we call experience. You cannot buy it. You can't buy it.
No, you can't. But although I always have young people in my life, and actually I've been very blessed, because a lot of my daughter's friends that she went to high school with, and my daughter will be 30 this year. So it's been a while, but I'll run into them, or they'll stop by and knock on the door, and I'll open the door. I'm like, hello, can I help you? They go, Ma. And I'm like, okay. And then they go, it's so, so like, oh my God, because I haven't seen them since I had my place where I had my horses were all at and stuff. And I'm like, holy crow, you grew up. So when did that happen? So yeah, I still love young people. I like to encourage them.
Yeah.
It's just a different way. And I don't know if you guys have found it over there where you are, but here we have a lot more of children who have gifts, and because the attitude over here has changed over the years, people are allowing their children to learn what they need to learn, not push them into it, but what they're interested in. And I've been doing quite a bit of work with that with young people. Have you seen any of that over there by you?
Not so much me personally, but I certainly read about it and see it, and and I do get a lot of like moms, more moms and dads, say, hey Andrew, my daughter's really talented, or she's gifted, or she sees things, or she hears things, and I'll say, well, look, don't say to them, don't do this, just encourage them to speak about what they're seeing, seeing and hearing. But as we know with kids, a lot of them grow out of this, or it's a bit like Santa Claus. Suddenly their friends will say to them, that's not true, there's nobody there, and then the kids will go, well, okay, there's nobody there. And I think they're not growing out of it, they're conditioned to believe there's nothing there. So I say is encourage the kids, the kids.
That's always been there. We've lived and grew up in a society, even myself, when I knew I had gifts when I was younger, you grow up in a society that teaches you, no, you're not seeing anything, there's no invisible friends, you're imagining whatever. And it's like, no, not really, because if I really look back, I remember exactly what happened when it happened, and I know what I saw. And so when I get parents that get hold of me and say, could you talk to my daughter? She's scared to go in her room at night. How old is she? Oh, well, she's 6. She thinks she sees somebody, but she's scared. I said, of course. So I always have the parents sit with them in the call, and then I just ask them, so what's going on? And they don't want to tell you first, so you tell them something, that story to relax them, and then the next thing you know, they're telling you just a little bit, and then, oh, well, that who do you think that might be if you're seeing somebody? Well, I don't know, and then you get to the next phrase of, well, grandma died like 6 months ago, and I think it's grandma. And I go, well, then it probably is. If you're seeing grandma, you're seeing them. Well, yeah, she comes in every night, and this little girl, they want to go to bed. I go, well, would your grandma hurt you if she was here with you? Like we're here, She says, well, no. I said, so if you're seeing your grandmother, she's not going to hurt you either. Tell her hi. So then I let the child talk about it. And then the following week, I got a phone call from the mom, and she brought the little girl back. She said, oh my goodness, I saw grandma, and she told me this and that. And then when the little girl walked away, the mother just said, thank you. I said, you don't have to encourage it, because this may just go away, after she's accepted grandma being there. But, don't deny the kids, just don't promote it, because if they're seeing somebody else do it, let it be for the right reasons. So, I love working with the kids. I love working with the kids. So what else? How's the wife and everything doing? I haven't seen you guys in so long. She doing good?
Yeah, she's good. Looking for.
Is her hair gray now because you've made her so crazy?
No, she was nuts anyway. But no, she was nuts anyway. But she it's strange because have you ever seen that sort of that grade that ladies have? It's like a platinum color. It's like and she saw a lady the other day, and she said, "Oh my God, I love her hair." She said, "I love my hair that color." I said, "Well, go that color." She said, "No, I'm going to go naturally grey." But honestly, I think she's got really strong genes, so she's not grey enough to do that thing. So she's just keep, every now and again. But no, she's still nuts, and I'm going to call her when we finish. Check in with her. Because I'm working away from home at the moment, so she's got the place to herself. So I'm heading home Friday. It's only an hour away.
Oh, you're at home? Okay.
Yeah. So it's crazy. You said about be careful what you wish for, and and she used to say, man, because there was me, my two boys, the dog, and now she got the house to herself. And she's like, I don't like this being on my own. So, I'll go and mix it up a bit at the weekend.
I think that's funny because I find that really amusing because people always say to me, oh my God, you're here by yourself. Isn't that depressing? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I rather like it that way. And they're like, what? And I go, yeah, I don't need somebody to be here at the house. Yeah. And then you get other people that are like, oh, I can't stand it. It's so quiet. Yeah. So that's good. You're at that point.
Yeah. And, you know, my wife and my brother are like that, you know. When I was in class today, our teacher said to us, you know, who does not like silence? And this, all three hands went, drives me nuts. And I honestly think, right, and anybody who's watching this, if they need to have noise and people around them, I've got a feeling that just generally speaking, some of those people don't like being alone with their own thoughts. Whereas I'm comfortable with that, you know. And my brother said the other night, he said, because I used to work with him, and he'd say, I come into work and it'd be deathly quiet and you'd be working away. So I get so much done when it's quiet. And he'd come in, put the radio on and clang and bang. And, you know, the moment was lost for me then. So yeah, I get the thing living on your own, but you've got a beautiful spot there right on the lakeside, haven't you?
I do. It's 20, not even 20 feet off my back of the house. And my daughter, actually Cynthia's daughter was up this past weekend, and then the weekend previous, Dave and Tay came up, and they were like sitting there, and they go, oh my God. I said, what? They go, how can you stand that? I go, stand what? We were in the front of the house, and the birds they're all here, so they're all talking to each other. He goes, and he doesn't shut up, the parrot, right? Because he talks constantly. I said, I guess they are. You tune it out, right? Like when you don't want to hear it, you just kind of tune it out. So, and I've actually been doing more, putting music on more, and then I leave it so that I can hear it through the house, but the birds hear it as well. Mm-hmm. He's actually singing some of the songs that I always have on, but it's like, I'm not really quiet. I'm kind of in the middle of nature's gift, I guess would be a way. My own little bubble, right?
Perfect.
Yeah. So for me it is. It might not be for everybody, but for me it is. So anyway, well, I love you so much, and
you too.
Reach out anytime, and if you've got stuff you want to promote, I'll make sure you're still in group. I'm not sure if you are or not, but I want you to please, and if you need anything or you want to broadcast again, holler. Sure. I'm happy to have you here. And we didn't even see, they didn't know, but I told them no readings today. So maybe another time we can come on, we can do some readings.
Do you know what? That would be really good, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen today. And honestly, I think this is the most we've spoken. I don't even think we have a call. We've exchanged some messages, maybe a brief call during the pandemic, but we've not really spoken like this for at least 10 years. So it's good to be back. Thank you for the invite. And yes, I would love to come back and do some readings for you.
This is a great group of people. And like I said, it's got a really wide audience group. So I thought, time to bring some new blood on with Sean and Beck. So that's great. Well, I love you. And until next time, guys, everybody, thank Andrew. Check him out. I put his .com in the comments. And until next time, I'll see all of you guys next Tuesday. And Andrew will see you on the fly. All right, guys. I love you much. Bye, Andrew.
God bless. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.